Hello and welcome to the Story Corner, Mysteries, Enigmatic Answers, Beyond Miracles. In this episode, we will introduce you to a story called The Barn Owl, Messenger of Death. This tale comes from a young man who offers a fresh perspective on traditional beliefs about barn owls, which are often seen as symbols of bad luck and death. His narrative blends personal experiences with philosophical interpretations. This story not only presents folk beliefs about barn owls in contemporary society, but also delves into the relationship between humans and nature in a more profound dimension. We hope this story will open up new perspectives for you regarding barn owls and related beliefs. If you're ready, let's listen to this story together.
The Barn Owl, Messenger of Death. In the pitch-black darkness of a moonless night, a piercing shriek echoed through the silent air. Scree! That sound jolted me awake in the dead of night, my heart racing with fear. I knew well that it was the cry of a barn owl, the winged harbinger of death that villagers believed to be a messenger from the underworld. Recalling my childhood, my grandmother's orchard house near the Cambodian border was a land steeped in beliefs of black magic and spirits. At night, only the dim light of kerosene lamps illuminated the darkness. The shadows of trees stretched into eerie shapes, and the soft rustling of leaves in the wind sounded like whispers of ghosts. One night, as we sat in a circle eating dinner under the lamplight, suddenly, we heard the flapping of wings from the darkness, followed by a blood-curdling screech. Scree! Everyone froze. My aunt whispered with a trembling voice, "Don't acknowledge it, or someone will die." Those words made the atmosphere even more chilling. No one dared to speak again. We just sat there, looking at each other in fear, wondering who would be the next victim of the barn owl, the messenger of death. Not long after that, someone in the village died. They passed away peacefully in their sleep, with no warning signs except for the owl's cry that night. This led the villagers to unanimously declare it as the bird of death. The fear of barn owls has been deeply rooted in my mind ever since. Even though years have passed, I still startle every time I hear its cry and the flapping of its wings at night. One day, while I was studying at the university, a professor passed away. I attended the funeral with a heavy heart, but then fear gripped me again when I heard a strange sound coming from the crematorium. Hoo! It sounded like someone crying, but something was off. It was incredibly eerie. I asked my senior who came with me, with a mix of curiosity and fear. "Fiku, who's crying around here? It won't stop." Fiku looked at me with a serious expression before whispering, "That's not someone crying. It's the sound of pigeons in the crematorium. But what's scarier is..." Fiku glanced around cautiously, "There's a barn owl around here too." Those words made me feel like I'd been doused with cold water. Childhood memories flooded back, along with intensified fear. Fiku, who was standing nearby, turned and whispered seriously, "Don't look at it. The barn owl is in the crematorium, believe it or not. Someone else might die." I tried not to look towards the crematorium, but I couldn't help wondering who would be the next victim. Not long after, a tragic incident occurred. Someone from the university really did die, and that person had also attended the professor's funeral. But no one could say whether that person had acknowledged the barn owl or not. Or perhaps it was just a coincidence. Later, my family moved to a new house by the Chao Phraya River. This house was an old one, nearly 100 years old, with a large tamarind tree in front. The locals called it Mother Tamarind. A 7-cubit-long tricolor cloth was wrapped around its trunk, revered by people in the area. On the first night we moved in, I sensed something unusual. The sound of wind rustling the tamarind leaves was soft, but it was intermingled with indistinct whispers, as if someone was talking in the tree. I tried to force myself to sleep, but the feeling of unease wouldn't fade. The next day, my mother went out to sweep the yard as usual. Suddenly, she rushed back into the house with a panicked look. "I saw a barn owl. It's perched on the tamarind tree," she said with a worried voice. I remembered the old people's warning. Where an owl perches, death will visit that house. Every night after that, I would hear the flapping of wings and the sharp cry of the barn owl intermittently. Sometimes it flew circles around the house, as if searching for prey. Everyone in the house was terrified, especially my father, whose health wasn't very good. Then one night, an incident occurred that startled everyone. My mother was sweeping the yard in the early dawn when suddenly, the barn owl swooped down from the tamarind tree, flying past her head in a flash. My mother's scream rang out. Everyone ran out to see her looking up at the tree angrily. "Crazy bird, it doesn't watch where it's flying," she said irritably. I looked up at the tamarind tree but couldn't see anything. After that incident, my mother decided to drive the barn owl away by scolding and chasing it every day. Eventually, the barn owl left. But the fear remained in everyone's hearts. I never saw that barn owl with my own eyes, even though everyone else in the house could see it. Every time my sister pointed it out to me, I couldn't see anything. It was as if there was a thin veil between me and the barn owl. Even though the barn owl had gone, I could still feel its presence, as if it was still watching us from somewhere, waiting for a chance to return. To bring death once again. Fortunately, my father continued to live for many years after that barn owl left. Doubt and fear continued to haunt me. Why couldn't I see the barn owl when others could? What did it mean? At times, I felt as if I were standing between the worlds of the living and the dead, yet I couldn't clearly see what existed in that other realm. Driven by curiosity, I decided to research barn owls and ancient beliefs. I discovered that barn owls weren't just ordinary birds. In many cultures, they symbolized death and transition. Some legends believed barn owls guided souls to the afterlife. The more I researched, the more I felt drawn into a mysterious and frightening world. Some nights, I dreamed I had become a barn owl, flying over houses and villages, seeing thin lines connecting people's bodies to their spirits. Some lines were fading, indicating approaching death. Fear and confusion began to dominate my mind. I didn't dare tell anyone about what was happening, afraid they'd think I was crazy. But at the same time, I felt I needed to do something. At that moment, thoughts and memories surfaced in my mind. I recalled my grandfather's stories about barn owls, remembered the information I'd researched about the ecological benefits of barn owls, and thought about beliefs in various cultures that viewed barn owls as symbols of wisdom and change. I began to realize that barn owls might not be harbingers of misfortune as many believed, but guardians warning us to be aware of life's changes. Perhaps the barn owl's cry wasn't a signal of death, but a reminder to cherish our loved ones and live meaningfully every day. Although I couldn't see barn owls with my own eyes, this experience made me feel the presence of mysterious forces in nature. Things we can't fully understand, but should respect and accept as part of life's cycle. Since then, whenever I hear a barn owl's cry at night, instead of feeling afraid, I'm reminded to use my time valuably. Because no one knows when their last day will come. The barn owl, in my eyes now, is no longer a messenger of death, but a reminder to live life mindfully, aware of the value of time and our relationships with those around us. Its cry is like a warning to live meaningfully, before it's too late.
The story of the barn owl presented in this tale demonstrates the narrator's shift in perspective, from fear to a deeper understanding. Personal experiences, combined with research, have opened a new dimension in viewing barn owls. From a symbol of death to a guardian of life's truths. In reality, barn owls may serve as intermediaries, reminding humans to be aware of life's uncertainties and encouraging us to use our time valuably. While old beliefs may be deeply rooted in society, a creative reinterpretation can lead to a balanced coexistence between humans and nature. For the cry of the barn owl may be like a warning, urging us to live mindfully, recognizing the value of time and our relationships with those around us. Sometimes, what we fear may be the best teacher, instructing us to understand life and death more profoundly. We've come to the end of our story, The Barn Owl, Messenger of Death. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to follow, like, and share to support us. We'll see you in the next episode. Thank you.